Hello and happy Tuesday. You are live with Sandra at It's All About Choices, where you make the decision to take action regarding your health, your weight, goals, and I guide you to the best choices for you. And every Tuesday, I have the pleasure of dishing out your daily dose of nutrition and wellness news for your mind, your body, and your soul. And I hope that everybody's had a wonderful weekend so far. We are slowly coming to a close to summertime, and I hope everybody is enjoying their day. I thank you for tuning in live with me on this beautiful Tuesday. And every Tuesday, I thank you all for tuning in who are able to pause, hopefully, are taking in some lunch and receiving some information that will help move you forward. And for those who are listening to the replay, I thank you for taking time out of your schedule to tune in with me and listen to the replay and pausing. And so I will take a few minutes to set up my windows because those who tune in with me on a regular basis know that I enjoy speaking to you and engaging with you. So I love engagement. So I am going to get my window set up so that when you do engage, I'm able to see your name and I'm able to respond to you. So as you are tuning in, please feel free to say hello to me and let me know where you're tuning in from. Give me a little shout out. And so we will jump right in. So August, can you believe it is August? Okay. And we are back to school. So even if you do not have kids or you're past that stage where your kids are no longer in school, we're all getting back to some form of a routine. We are all trying to find some structure because the summer months are crazy. We are doing things differently. We're traveling, we're going out more, we're doing things, we're breaking the routine that we had prior to summer. And so August is all about trying to reel it back in and to get back on a routine. And so we are going to talk about fast food versus home cooked today, the pros and the cons, and we are going to go beyond the basics, okay? We're going to go beyond the basics of the obvious. So I want you all to check out these surprising statistics about eating out versus eating at home. And so Americans spend more than $1,200 a year on fast food in particular per year. US families spend annually about 3,000 or more dollars dining out, okay? And about 80% of the US citizens visit fast food restaurants at least once a month, at least. And then around 23% of US dine out at least 3 times a week, okay? So it's a lot of emphasis in our country on eating out and that convenience. And so we have our busy lifestyle. And we find it, and it is easier. It is easier to go grab fast food on your way home from work, on your way to work. But this convenience comes at a price, right? And I'm not just talking about dollars and cents, right? It comes at a price. And so today I'm going to reveal 2 of the common pitfalls to eating out. We're going to talk about, and we're going to point out a few key nutritional differences between home cooked versus fast food that many don't think about. And then we're going to talk about the keys to balancing them both. And one thing that I have learned in working with clients and even myself is the more you find yourself eating clean, and once you realize what eating clean is and what eating clean is does not mean, it's not about restricting, but you will find yourself phasing out highly processed foods naturally because you're just not going to have that desire anymore. So you're going to find yourself eating less fast food or eating less of certain things just naturally. And so for those who don't know me, my name is Sandra Gultry, and I am a registered dietitian, and I am a licensed nutritionist, and I simply help adults with that sense of frustration and overwhelm associated with failed attempts at either losing weight, keeping it off, or simply to improve their health status. So the goal is about building lifestyle habits that last for life, okay? And so I see people tuning in, and so please, please, please chime in and say hello to me so I can see who you are, so I can see who you are. And so, as I stated, this month is about getting back on a routine, getting back on a structure. For those of us who have kids, I have an 8-year-old that is going into 3rd grade next week. We have no choice but to try to find some routine back. So whether you're going back to school or not, this is a time that we try to reel things back in from the summer. And we're talking specifically about fast food versus home cooked, the pros and the cons, and we're going beyond the obvious, okay? And so research continues to support that homemade meals tend to have a healthier nutrient profile than takeout. Okay, so that's the obvious. What's not so obvious is this includes vegan restaurants and those restaurants that market themselves as being healthier. Okay, we got these different smoothie restaurants. We have Vita Bowls. We have all these different places. And not saying that they're not healthy, but it doesn't mean we still have to pay attention to the label. We still have to pay attention to how things are prepared. So it doesn't automatically mean just because it's vegan and it's marketed a certain way that that is just completely healthy all the way around the board. So we want to make sure we pay attention to certain things. And so you can spare yourself the unwanted calories, the carbs, the saturated fat, and especially sodium by preparing your own meals with fresh, healthy ingredients, which will possibly lower your risk of hypertension, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, and heart disease. So those are things that we have to think about. So we want to have a balance. We shouldn't have to choose one or the other all the time, but we want to make sure that we have that right balance to where it is not impacting our health, our wellness, our weight. Okay. And so I want to do a quick poll while I see a few people tuning in. So I see Tanika, hey, hey, hey. I see Ronnie, hey, thank you for tuning in. And I'm going to, I start things out with a poll. So everybody knows that I start things out with a poll. So the first question is, how many times or how many meals? So we want to break it down by meals, not necessarily days, but how many meals per week would you say that you eat out? Okay. And I'm going to define eat out because I learned that some people define eating out as a sit down, kind of not necessarily upscale, but you're sitting down, it's a nice casual restaurant. No, if you have to get a receipt to eat the food, then that's considered eating out. Okay. So if you got to pay for something, that's considered eating out. So how many meals would you say that you have per week? Is it 1 to 2 meals per week, 3 to 4 meals per week, or 5 times or more? So be honest. It's not a judgment zone. I want to get an idea of the demographics. Hey, Anthony, tuning in from Houston. I appreciate you taking time out, Marching 100 in the house. So he's taking time out of his schedule. So we're asking how many meals per week are you eating out? 1 to 2, 3 to 4, or 5 or more, okay? And I will check those numbers out. And so I'm going to lead today's discussion with one of the top cons to eating out, okay? So we're going to start with the not so good stuff first, okay? And so the first one is sodium, okay? This is probably the 1 to 2, okay? I see 1 to 2 that for Tanika. Okay, we got family on the call. My dad is here. How many times do you eat out, Dad? I don't know. I can't keep an eye on him. So let me know how many meals per week you and Mom are eating out. So too much sodium is where we're going to start it. Okay, even if it's a vegan. Okay, I just want to point that out. Doesn't matter the restaurant. Sodium is one area. Unless you're eating a salad with balsamic vinaigrette on it, we got to think about the sodium. There's no cheese, no meat. It's a side salad. We got to be careful about sodium, okay? So statistics reveal that 89% of Americans eat too much salt, okay? And it goes beyond cooking with salt, okay? Because many of us do not cook with salt, but that is not where the culprit is, okay? So excess salt intake causes water retention, which can lead to a rise in your blood pressure. It can result in damage to our heart, blood vessels, brain, kidneys. So it over time, this happens over time. And so the pro is when you're at home, you're more inclined to cook with less salt. But restaurants and fast food outlets, they use generous amounts of salt to enhance the flavor, right? If you're paying for it, you want it to taste good, right? Food additives and preservatives also contain salt. So a lot of times people don't realize that. And so here's something that I want you all to know, that a food does not have to taste salty in order for it to contain a large amount of salt or sodium, okay? So everybody's salt sensitivity is different, okay? Mine's very, very high. So it doesn't take much for me to feel that something is salty. But what I do say is if it tastes salty to you, that means it's over the top. Okay, it's over the top, but it doesn't have to taste salty. And a lot of times I'll hear people say, oh, this tastes good. It's flavored really well. It's seasoned really well. That's a good sign that it's probably got a lot of sodium in it. Okay, a lot of sodium containing seasonings. Okay, so not necessarily just plain salt. It can garlic salt, different seasonings that contain salt. So that's where you got to be careful. Okay. All righty. And so I have a question here. I see some comments here. Let's see what we got here. Yes. Mine is high too. Yes. Salt sensitivity. Yes. Mine's very high. And when I eat out, I know I eat out because it sits on me for a little while. So I have to really watch how often I eat out because it doesn't take much for it to take effect on me. And so, what do you normally opt for when you're eating out? So, do you tend to order grilled chicken a lot when you eat out? Do you tend to go for the soup with salad? Do you go to a vegan restaurant? Or, and this is not on here, I want to say it doesn't necessarily have to be straight vegan, more plant-based. Would you choose a more plant-based entree when you eat out? So what do you normally opt for, just because, maybe you feel it's healthier, you're reducing the hit. I like to call it the hit that you take. And if it's chicken, it can come in the form of either a salad or an entree. If you're doing a soup, most of us would tend to go to a non-cream based soup option because it's cream-based soups we know are much higher in fat. And then again, like I said, a vegan option. This can include either a vegan restaurant or just looking at the vegan options, because a lot of restaurants now have vegan options. Okay, so drum roll. So now that we have, let me see if anybody has replied yet. Okay, so based off, let me see here. I ate out twice a week and the sodium was off the chain. Absolutely, Ronnie, absolutely. And I'm about to share one of the biggest sodium culprits out there, which is chicken and soup. Okay, so yes, they're both low in fat. They're of course low in carbs, depending on kind of soup you receive, but they are extremely high in sodium. And there's several reasons why that I could talk about that in another setting, but there's several reasons why it's very, very high in sodium. But again, they're low fat options, but the sodium hit will exceed what a person needs in a day. So I apologize to all you Chick-fil-A lovers out there. So if it's any of y'all out there, admit it. It's okay, because many people go there because it's healthier. You get the grilled chicken, you get this, you get that. But unfortunately, it is a sodium nightmare. So it's something that you definitely want to limit how often you go to. And then vegan menus, they usually fall into the same category. I mean, they got to flavor it and season it. Now, does it always have to contain a lot of sodium in it? No, it doesn't. But I have noticed just by looking at the nutrition information when it's available that they are very high in sodium. So you got to be careful. So don't go to a vegan restaurant every day thinking that is a healthier choice, because you still have certain things that you have to look for other than just the calories and the fat and things like that. And so we just want to be very, very, very careful. Okay. And so let me see. We got some comments here. Oh, I always have at least one person that says, oh no, not Chick-fil-A. So yes. So honestly, eating out, I steer my clients fish, lean red meat, lean pork. I mean, really anything other than chicken, if sodium is something that you really have to be mindful of, or you could just limit the amount that you have of the chicken. But it just kind of depends on where you're at. But I just like for people to realize that there's more to look at than just the calories and the fat when we eat out. But yes, I know, I'm so sorry about the Chick-fil-A. I break a lot of people's heart with that one. And let's see here. And so another pitfall, we're going to go on to another pitfall that we have when we eat out. I'm going to look for some more comments. Okay. All righty. Weight loss. Okay. So when we are trying to lose weight, eating out definitely will play a big role in that. Okay. And so did you know that the value meal at a fast food chain can cost you all the recommended calories that you need, or that you should have in a day, just by eating something other value meal? And then eating full portions at some restaurants can even double what you need, and as far as your calorie needs per day. I mean, it's amazing how many calories are in some, and that's just the calories. We haven't even looked at the sodium part of it. And so on the pro side, homemade meals will have fewer calories, and which is helpful when you are trying to lose weight. Okay. And so when you examine the cooking frequency and the diet of Americans today who have intentions of losing weight, reveal that they will eat out like maybe 6 or 7 times per week. Okay. On average, 170 maybe calories fewer per day, 5 grams of fat less sugar than those who who cook at home and they're eating out. Okay. So basically we want to reduce the frequency of how often we eat out. So I tend to say if you're trying to lose weight, you want to limit it to like 1 or 2 meals a week. Okay. And you still want to be mindful of those 1 or 2 meals that you pick because it can still derail what you're trying to do. And so people who cook at home tend to eat healthier when they are not trying to lose weight. Okay, whether they're trying to lose weight or not, they tend to eat healthier when they cook more. So I like to say reserve eating out for the luxury. Remember, there was a time when eating out was a luxury. Like we would look forward to that. It's a convenience now, right? It's a convenience, but it's also a choice. And so we've got to think about, and not just your weight. Of course, it affects our weight, but you got to think about medical conditions, blood pressure, cholesterol, things of that nature, diabetes. So we have to think about all these other things that come into play if we are constantly eating out, especially if we're not making the most healthiest choices out there. Okay. And so I am going to, let's see here. That is, that is grilled chicken breast. So, okay. So you said, how about so it doesn't matter the part of the chicken when it's at a restaurant. So it's a good question. So the thing is, naturally, right, chicken is not high in sodium. But however, what happens is when it's at the distributor and it's being processed, they pack it in sodium this and sodium that in order to reduce the bacteria, to keep it food safety and all these things. And then when it gets to the restaurant, then of course it's already has sodium this and sodium that in it just so it can get to them safely and without bacteria. And then they're cooking it. And then they're doing what they're doing with it. So whether it's frying it, whether it's grilling it, they're seasoning it, whether it's breading is very high in sodium. So it just adds up from that point. Now, when you buy it from a grocery store, it's usually in its fresh state. And so it has a short shelf life too, right? And so, but it's in its fresher state. So it doesn't have the salt already in it fresh. Now you have to watch out for frozen chicken in the frozen bags and things like that. Sometimes those are high in sodium as well because they're packing it, they're trying to preserve it so it can last longer, prevent bacteria growth and things of that nature. But I have been looking at some of the frozen like chicken, for example, and some of them are not as high in sodium as they used to be. So they're getting better. But if it's marinated and things like that, you can pretty much guarantee that those are going to be higher in sodium. So it just kind of depends. But when it's in a restaurant, it's usually, and one test that you can do, I always encourage my clients to do this. McDonald's has a interactive menu. I know they used to have an interactive menu. And so I would say, pull up the grilled chicken salad, look at the sodium, and then take off the salad or take off the chicken and then look at the sodium. And you will see what I'm talking about as far as how the chicken will make a difference. So it doesn't matter the cut of the meat. I mean, now that's more of a fat issue. Like if you're dealing with skin, you're dealing with the fat, you can trim that off. You can take the skin off, and dark meat is just as lean as white meat. Okay, so that's more of a fat issue and a saturated fat issue. But when it comes to sodium, it's all in what's done to it before it even gets to the restaurant, and then the restaurants are preparing it. Okay, so beyond the basics, right? I told you, beyond the basic. And these are things that you don't know what you don't know. So you don't think about these things. We just know chicken is lean. So, hey, I'm going to make a better choice. I'm going to get grilled chicken. It's not fried. So, yeah, it's healthier, but we have other things that we got to take into consideration also. So let's see here. So we're asking this question again. How many meals do you eat out per week? So I'm asking this twice. Some people have logged on since I asked the question, or maybe some people want to change their answer. Maybe it's more than what they thought the first time I asked, or maybe they underestimated a little bit. But again, limit dining to 1 or 2 meals per week. And I recommend this whether you want to lose weight or not. It's just good for overall health to limit that to 1 or 2 meals per week and have it as a luxury. Never run out of groceries. I tell my clients, have food in the house, because of course, if you don't have food in the house, you're vulnerable, right? You're going to eat out. You have no choice. But think about your overall health, your wellness, and not feeling so bloated, not feeling so sluggish, and all that kind of good stuff. So you want to think about all of these different things, okay? All righty. Good comments, good questions. All righty. So now let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving to the not so obvious stuff. So the difference in nutrition. Okay. So when comparing the nutritional value of fast food, and this includes restaurants too, so not just fast food versus home cooked meals, the meals that you prepare yourself are, of course, they're going to be healthier, right? Well, I guess I may take that back. Depends on how you cook, right? It depends on how you cook. But fast food and restaurant meals are higher in salt. Think about the artery clogging cholesterol and calories. Okay. So we got to take those things into consideration. So the pro is when you're preparing your own dishes, you can control the ingredients. That's the big thing. You can control the ingredients. You can control the type of sugar that you're using, the amount of sugar that you're using, because everything doesn't have to have zero added sugar. It just kind of depends on what it is, but you can control that. And then lower sodium options, okay? And you can also include more vegetables and more whole grains, okay? And another pro is when you can choose healthier fats in your recipes, okay, which will help with improving your heart health. So you can use the healthier oils and things of that nature when you are cooking. And then you can also manage your portion sizes, okay, when you're eating and when you're dishing it out. And so the larger than necessary serving sizes that you get in most restaurants also leads to overeating. It's there, so a lot of times people don't have that strength to eat half of it or to eat a part of the meal. It's there and they're going to eat it all, especially if maybe they went into that meal hungry or extra hungry. Then you're going to tend to overeat and eat way more than what you need in that one setting. And guess what happens when we eat something and our body has used all that it can use, but yet we're still eating? It gets stored as fat. So if it's more than what our body needs, then it's just going to store it as fat. And that's how we gain weight and we get sick over time. So instead of that 12-ounce steak that you order at a restaurant, cut it in half, and for some people, they don't even need 6 ounces at a setting. So it just depends on the person because our bodies can only use so much. And our eyes tell us one thing. I mean, I had to cut back on protein a lot once I realized, oh, wow, okay, I was really overdoing it. But we want to make sure that we are giving our body what it needs, and because if it doesn't need it, it's just going to store it as fat, and so that's going to also hinder weight loss as well. Even though we can eat it, it'll get stored as fat, and so we want to make sure that we're maybe eating 3 or 4 ounces of that meat, but we're also having vegetables with it. We're also having a healthy starch or grain with it, and we're having things that have more fiber in it. So that's the piece that is usually missing. We have a larger piece of meat, but we don't have anything with it. So that's the thing we want to make sure that we're eating around a plate and have all the players. So that means so that we are full and that we are satisfied, but we're satisfied and full off of multiple things, not just the meat itself. Okay. So and then desserts, you got to think about desserts. So now, I like to eat my desserts when I'm out, but I have grown to a point where I'm selective. So I'm not going to order dessert just because it's on the menu. So if it's a restaurant that has something that you really enjoy and is good to you, then portion it out, share it, things of that nature. But eating the whole dessert, that's going to really take you over the top. Okay. It's really, really, really going to take you over the top. So we want to balance that out. So that's about balancing because we want to eat out and we want to enjoy. We want food for fun. We want food for fellowship, but we also don't want to have the effects of the negative effects is what we don't want to have over time. All right. So here's a good question that I want to ask you. Do you think upscale restaurants are healthier than, like a casual restaurant? So an upscale restaurant compared to like a BJ's or Bahama Breeze or Outback, do you think a more upscale where you have the 4-course meal and things like that? You got to dress up, has the fine linen on the table. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's healthier? Yes, no, or if you're not sure, say you're not sure. We can shed some light on that. So I will look for those comments as we are. Okay. Anthony said no. He flat out said no because, okay, we got a couple of no's here. Okay. It depends. Okay. I was going to say it does depend. You still have to pay attention. I mean, one thing with an upscale restaurant, you're more likely to get all the pieces as far as, you're going to get, the vegetables and the meat and things of that nature. You're going to get a variety of foods and the food groups and things of that nature. But yes, you still do have to pay attention to what you're eating. Now, I will say in an upscale restaurant too, the portion sizes are generally more of what we need. A lot of times people will say, "Oh my God, I just paid $100 for this, and this is all I got." But a lot of times the portion sizes match what we need. But compared to some place like a Cheesecake Factory, I mean, a lot of times those portions are enough for 3 people. Okay, believe it or not, and the calories, probably 3 days for some people. But it depends, and it does, like Krista says, it does. It depends on how it's prepared too. However, again, you still have to pay attention to the sodium because a lot of times I've yet to find a restaurant that really pays attention to sodium content. Now, one thing that the FDA is being regulating on restaurants, but it hasn't happened yet, is that they are supposed to pay more attention to the amount of sodium in food and to try to lower it. But yet, of course, I got to find there's ways to maintain the flavor without it being always sodium-based seasoning. So that is something that's coming down the pipes because as a country, we are unhealthy. And that is one of the big reasons why we are unhealthy because of the sodium. So it's not just fat. Many restaurants have lower fat options and they have lower calorie options, but they don't have lower sodium options. Sometimes you have to ask, oh, do you have a heart healthy, version or way that you can make it? Some dishes they can, and some dishes they can't. It just depends. So, because I ask this question all the time, I have high blood pressure, so I ask these type of questions all the time because I don't always want to have to take a 3-day hit because I want to eat out somewhere, for example. So you have to ask, but it does depend. So it's not an automatic upscale restaurant is healthy. You still got to pay attention and be mindful, okay? And be mindful. So good. Thank you for that feedback. Upscale restaurants are worse. They want to make the food richer and more satisfying. It does, especially if it's like a cuisine like French or something specific like that. I have noticed that because they have the sauces and they have things that are marinated and stuff like that. So you have to pay attention. So it doesn't automatically mean that it is healthy and you can just go for broke. So good comments. And so wrapping it up, so dine out as a treat. So I kind of touched on this a little earlier, dining out as a treat. And I had mentioned earlier, there was a time when eating out was a luxury, have that day. Oh, maybe it's Friday or maybe you have a lunch one day during the week, or maybe it's Sunday, but have it to where it's something that you look forward to. Okay, not something that is expected only because we didn't plan and we don't have groceries and we don't want to cook and things of that nature. So that's another topic. But no, we don't want to cook every day. Some people love to cook every day. I think Tanika, I have a person on here who does not like to have leftovers. So that's great. If you have the bandwidth to do that, do that. But most people don't want to cook every day, and you don't have to cook every day in order to eat healthy. But have something at home so that you're set up more for success, to not be vulnerable to having to, okay, we got to order pizza, oh, we got to call Uber and have something delivered. I mean, things are so convenient right now, right? And so life has become more complicated. It's become busier, and eating out has become the norm. Okay, it's one of those things that once upon a time was abnormal that is now normal. So it's really not. But unfortunately, it has led to a norm in our country, and we are unhealthy as a result of it. And so the real question is, how do we change the outcomes and find a balance of enjoying life and being healthy? Okay. And decide as a family, or if you're single, of course you decide for yourself, but as a family, what meals are you going to have out? What do you have something to look forward to? Have something to look forward to. Don't derail, all you've done all week by one meal, because it's very easy to do. Very easy to do. So still enjoy your favorite restaurants, but just learn how to be mindful. And one of the things that I do teach my clients is it's very important to know how to read labels, okay? And many people think that, they focus on the sugar, but it's way more on the label than just the sugar. You need to understand the label in its entirety as well as the ingredients, and that actually translates to restaurant menus, to where you can kind of pay attention to things and know, okay, let me cut this down in half, or maybe let me get this on the side. There's ways to work around it to where you can still enjoy yourself and not take such a hit, okay? So let me look at some comments here. We can make fun food at home better for you. That's true. recipes. I'm a big fan of recipes, but you also have to sometimes tweak recipes as well. So they're not always the healthiest, but then you don't always have to search for, the healthy only recipe. So I've taken many recipes and just kind of swapped things out and substituted things out and things of that nature. So recipes are your friend. Okay. And so a lot of times the thing is people need help with meals to cook at home. Okay. They want to do it, but they don't know how to do it. Okay. And so if you need a model for what that looks like, then I encourage you. Here's a model right here. I encourage you to download. It's a free 3-day meal plan. And it's a guidebook. And what the guidebook will show you is how to navigate in the kitchen, when to prepare some things. You don't always have to prepare things all at one time. You can prepare some things in bulk. You can prepare things sometimes on demand when you need it. But they're very quick meals. They're fast. They're easy to prepare. And like I said, it has a step-by-step guidebook. And it has an itemized grocery list. So you'll have everything down there on what you need to order. Or what you need to order if you do it online or buy at the grocery store. So I definitely recommend that you download it and grab it. It's free. I'm going to put it in the chat also, because I know many of you are not able to click on the banner. So here we go. So here is where you can download the guidebook. Can labels be a topic? I'll have to figure out how to do that one. That's a good question, because there's so much that goes into reading a label. So I will have to figure out how I can break that up and to do that into a live, or maybe give you some snippets on how to get at least the basics of how to read a label, because label is really detailed, because you have labels for 5 different food groups that you can look at, and then you can combine foods as well. But I will take that note. So I love it when people make suggestions. So thank you for that, Anthony. I will definitely note that down. Let me hit enter on this. There we go. So you all can see how to download that information. And so I encourage you to share this on your timeline with your friends and your family, because, hey, eating out is a big thing in this country. And so we want to do it, but we want to do it without it impacting our health and our wellness. And so this concludes what I have for this week of your wellness news for the mind, your body, and your soul. I thank you for tuning in. I thank you for all the engagement. I love it. I love it. I love it. And so next week, we are going to continue on this back to school, getting back on the structure, getting back on a routine. We're going to talk about the number one mistake that wrecks your weight loss efforts and the solution. Okay. And it's not what you think. It's not what you think. So tune in next week to find out what that number one mistake is that we make. And then and we can work through that one as well. So have a great rest of your day. And I will see you back next week. Same time, same handle. Bye-bye and be blessed.